In this video, I'm going to talk you through my entire lead vocal chain for male rock and country vocals. This is a chain that helps me get results like these. I can't let you leave this behind, 'cause I've been locked inside while you hold the key, and I've been trying to get out, but this might be the death of me, but I'm breaking out. Oh, these lazy bones of mine, they're not perfect, but they're fine. I lay around and watch 9/9 and just sit about, 'cause it's got up and it's gone. I've been in this house too long. Say hey there, lazy bones, are you sick of being all alone? Now, if you're interested in learning what I do with these vocals once they're recorded, and also how I arrange vocals in a production and how I treat them in a mix, then I have got a full in-depth deep dive video into producing vocals. Just go to pages.adam-fiasco.com/deep dive vocals. The link is in the description below. Something that I see asked all the time, literally all over the internet, and also the topic of many blog articles and YouTube videos, is which is the best vocal mic for XYZ, male rock vocals, female country vocals. Now, the real truth is that there is not really one size fits all. Yes, there are a couple of mics that can cover a broad range of singers, but it's unlikely that you're ever going to find one mic that sounds absolutely stunning on every single application. And in my experience, this is even more true when you're looking at lower budget mics. Now, I'm not saying that lower budget mics aren't any good. There are some absolutely incredible examples of low budget microphones out there. Things like the Aston Spirit and the Aston Origin. Also offerings from Warm Audio, Lewitt. These are all incredible microphones. However, whilst they may work really well on some singers, they can sound pretty bad on others. So if you are a singer and you're looking to record yourself at home, then it's really important to try a bunch of different microphones and choose the best one for your voice. If you're a producer or if you're looking to record other singers, then it's likely that you're probably going to have a couple of microphones in your arsenal to cover a broad range of applications. However, there are some microphones that sound absolutely incredible on probably 8 or 9 out of 10 singers. And today, I want to talk you through my go-to vocal chain for male rock and country vocals. Okay, so here's the microphone that I use on 9 out of 10 male vocals. It's a U47 mic. Unfortunately, it's not an original Neumann or even a Telefunken reissue, but it's an incredible sounding 47 regardless of that. And to be honest, it's a little bit of a Frankenstein mic. The internals of this microphone are quite unique. Some of the parts are one-to-one replicas of the original 47. The transformer is a one-to-one replica of the BV8 transformer. The capsule is a really, really good K47 capsule that's built by a French company. And inside, it actually runs on 2 tubes. So this 47 design, I believe, was originally done by a guy on the internet called IO Audio, and he discovered that if you run 2 408 tubes in parallel, then apparently you get really, really close to the original VF14 tubes that the original Telefunken 47s used. That is probably one of the biggest issues with 47s, particularly the original ones. The tubes are almost impossible to find originals of now. I think Telefunken do their own replica that I've no doubt is incredible. And a lot of the clones, such as the Warm Audio one and various other companies that do 47s, just use a single tube, just a more modern choice. Some of these are also incredible. I've used the Warm 47 myself a couple of times. It's a very, very fine mic, sounds very much like a 47. There's companies like Flea that do great sounding 47s as well. But this particular one is quite unique that it uses this 2-tube design. So these are the tubes. They are 408. This is by Western Electric, and inside there are 2 of those. The downside to these is that there's not that many that are microphone grade. However, they are incredibly cheap. So I just bought a bunch of these. I bought like 20 of them, and then I tried just some random combinations of those to select the ones that were the quietest, and they've lasted really well. I've had this for about 4 or 5 years now and never had to swap the tubes out. Apparently, one of the benefits of using 2 of these tubes that are wired in parallel is that does reduce noise, and I haven't really had any noise issues with it. It's a very, very fine sounding 47. I had it built in the UK here. A very good friend of mine called Connor put this together for me, bought all the individual parts. And it sounds great, exactly what you would expect from a 47. So it's got really nice big lows, a really nice forward mid-range, and also super smooth in the highs. This is one of the very few microphones I've come across where sometimes you can get away without using a de-esser in the mix, particularly if you're not boosting a ton of highs. So it sounds great, and it costs a hell of a lot less than a genuine vintage 47. So that's the microphone. Now I want to show you what else is in the vocal chain before we get to the computer. I've got various hardware units here that I've chosen and kept over the years that just really work. So let's have a look. So the first thing that we're hitting from the microphone is this preamp at the top. That's a Neve 1073 DPD. Really classic preamp. It works on pretty much 99.9% of any sound sources that I want to record. It's also built like a tank. It's just got that classic British sound. So that's the preamp that I'm using most of the time. Then after the preamp, we're usually going into a compressor. 9 times out of 10, I'm going into the LA2A, which is this one here. The LA2A, again, is a really classic compressor. It's just got such a gorgeous, buttery smooth sound. The compression is very transparent. You can hit 5, 7, even 10 dB of compression on this without it sounding pumped. But it's also got a very unique tone. It adds a lot of smoothness to the sound. It adds a lot of weight as well. It's just a really great sounding unit. It's not clean, but it sounds great in pretty much 99% of cases. Now, if either of those are not working for some reason, I have another preamp over here. This is the Warm Audio Tone Beast, which is based on an API 312 circuit. This is a little bit more forward in the mid-range, and it's got smoother highs. So if that just sounds better on some sources, then I might use that. As for the compression, if I do want compression, but the LA2A isn't really giving me what I want, then I've got a bunch of 1176s here. So there's the blue stripe that you can see just underneath the 2A. That's mega aggressive, very mid-forward. This can be great for rock vocals if you want a mega aggressive sound. And I've got the two 1176 Rev Ds just below it. These are the Warm Audio ones. Sound really great. They're more aggressive than the LA2A, but not quite as aggressive and upfront as the blue stripe. So once all of that is patched in, we're ready to go for a vocal take. I would advise getting a decent pop filter. It doesn't really make a difference whether you go for a fabric one or a metal one. They both do a fine job. However, make sure you get a decent one that holds its position. There's so many really cheap pop filters that you put them where you want them and then they just completely collapse. This is an AKG one, came with a 414 mic, and it's great. It's fabric, it's dual fabric on both sides, but it just goes exactly where you put it, which is great. So on this microphone, I like to have the pop filter probably somewhere around 5 to 10 centimeters away from the mic, and then the middle of the capsule in line with the singer's mouth. Now in terms of the singer, I like to have them probably about 20 to 30 centimeters back from the microphone. Now the reason for that is if you get really up close with it, then you can get quite a boom from the proximity effect. For some styles, that might be exactly what you need. For example, if it's just a really simple piano vocal, acoustic guitar vocal, and you want it to sound mega intimate, then great, go for it. If you go any further back, then it's going to sound distant and you start to introduce some room elements. So the sweet spot for me is usually around 20 to 30 centimeters. It's also great when you've got a singer that's got great mic technique. So if they're singing a really loud phrase, then they might back off a little bit more. If they're singing something that's really quiet, then they might go back in. That can be really great to have. Also, when you're singing backing vocals and harmonies, singers that don't overemphasize the S sounds and the T sounds and the F sounds, the hard consonants, that can be an absolute godsend as well. Now, potentially one of the drawbacks of a microphone like this, or any condenser microphone for that matter, is the room acoustics. These kind of microphones will pick up the sound of the room, especially if you are 20 to 30 centimeters away. So that is something that you absolutely have to consider. Now in here, I've made this room quite dead. There's a bunch of acoustic panels on the walls, 3 either side of me. There's 2 on the back wall, including bass traps, and there's also 2 ceiling clouds. So there's this double thickness one here that's angled downwards, and there's also another one at the back of the room just above where the camera is. So this room is pretty dead, and for recording vocals and things like acoustic guitars, which is probably 90% of what I do here, then it's perfect. It absolutely wouldn't be any good for something where you want a live sound like drums. But this is absolutely something that you're going to have to bear in mind when using a condenser microphone. Now, if you can't have a ton of room treatment, there's loads and loads of really cheap, even free ways of deadening a room suitable enough to record vocals in. If you do a quick Google search, I'm not going to go into that now, but there is a load of information out there. Also, some of the units that you can buy to go around your microphones are really, really good. So I think SE do a reflection filter that goes on the stand and goes around the mic. I had one of their very early ones, and to be honest, it wasn't very good. It was very, very heavy. The microphone stand just kind of kept collapsing. And I'm sure they've probably got a lot better now. However, I did have an Aston Halo, which basically does the same job, and it was incredible. It's really, really good. It's incredibly light, so you can put it onto the mic stand without any issues, and it really, really helps isolate the microphone. It also comes over the top and the bottom as well, so it gives you a bit more isolation in terms of around the microphone. However, you need to bear in mind that while those are really good and they're effective, they're only really blocking stuff coming from the back or the sides. Anything that's in front of the microphone, that's probably where you're going to need some acoustic treatment. So once all of that is set up and we're good to go, then we'll go for a take. Now, for most singers and in most rock and country songs, I'm going to get quite a few doubles, particularly of the lead vocal. So the verses, I might take 2, so that's just a main lead and a double. You might want to record more than that so that you can choose the best pieces to go where. And then for the choruses, I'm often recording 3 takes. So that's 1 lead vocal straight up the middle, and then 2 doubles, 1 panned hard left and 1 panned hard right. That's a very easy way of just making the chorus sound bigger. If your lead vocal is dead center in the verse, and then you go to 3 in the chorus, 1 in the middle and 2 left and right, that can just give the illusion that your vocal is moving outwards. Okay, so now we are in the computer. There's not often a lot to do with the vocals until we come to the mix, because I've kind of committed a sound on the way in. We've chosen the microphone, we've chosen the preamp, and we've also most of the time gone through some sort of compressor. It's usually the LA2A. So then the only other processing that goes off is when we come to the final mix. So once we get to the mix, these are my go-tos for treating the vocals. So the first thing I usually do is some corrective EQ. Now, Soothe is absolutely brilliant for this. Sometimes I just want to take out anything that's not very pleasant about the vocal, and Soothe does that incredibly well in literally a couple of seconds. So male vocals, particularly when they start to sing high, they might get some resonances or some whistle tones in the sort of 2 to 4K range. This can just take them out literally straight away, and that's what I'm doing here. If Soothe doesn't work, or I'm finding myself just messing around for it for too long and not really getting anywhere, then FabFilter Q3 is an absolutely brilliant alternative. It allows you to be a lot more precise and a bit more surgical, but between Soothe and FabFilter Q3, then you've got absolutely everything you need to deal with anything that you don't like about the vocal. After that, then I'm generally going into some more EQ, and this is character EQ. So this is making the vocal pop, making it sound exciting, and for that I absolutely love the Slate Digital VMR. It's just such crazy good value for money, and the tools are second to none. I absolutely love the SSL EQ. I also like the custom series EQs as well. So in this, I'm adding some top end, I'm adding a little bit of mid-range, also adding some lows just to make the vocal really cut through and sit where I want it. And then after that, I'm going into some compressors. Now, because I've got the rack behind me, I'm coming out of Cubase and going into the hardware compressors. I'm usually going into the 1176 Blue Stripe first, probably taking off about 10 dB of gain, and then after that I'm going into the LA2A, which smooths it and rounds it off. Now, the reason that I do it in that order, so I EQ first and then go into the compressors, is because I find that the compressor pins back anything unpleasant about this EQ. So you want your vocal to be bright and upfront. So if you add the brightness first, then hit the compressor kind of holds it back and gels it where it needs to be. I find if you do it the other way around, in my experience, compressing first and then adding this kind of EQ, you can run into all sorts of issues with sibilance and just annoying resonances. So for me, this is the way that works. After the compressor, I'm then going into a de-esser. So for this, I'm using the Iosis E2, E squared, however you pronounce it. Again, it's just a really, really great de-esser. It's part of the Slate Digital All Access Pass. You can literally get great results from just a couple of clicks and a couple of seconds, which for me is perfect. Now, something else that's probably worth mentioning about vocals is that in the mix session, I have a vocal bus set up that all of my vocals go through. And on that, I've got a pair of vintage Dolby A360s. Those are in the rack behind me. I'll show you them now and I'll tell you a little bit about what they do. Okay, so these are the Dolbys at the bottom, just underneath the warm 1176s. Now, these go on the vocal bus, so all of the vocals go through them, and then I blend them in as a parallel effect. These were really popular in the sort of like 60s, 70s, 80s when engineers were recording to tape. The problem with recording to tape is that you get a lot of hiss if you boost the high end. So these boost the high end a lot on the way in, but then you can press the play button and then they knock it back down. So it used to be a way for engineers to get really, really nice, airy top end, but without the hiss that you tended to get from tape. However, engineers found that actually the top end that these added was so pleasing and just sounded so great that using it as an effect could really, really make the vocals pop. Mutt Lange used this on so many of his records, for example, Celine Dion, Def Leppard. It just makes the vocals sound really, really expensive and shiny and just really, really pop out of the mix. Now, if you want to get that effect that the Dolbys add, you've got a couple of options. So first of all, you could pick up a pair of Dolbys like I did. These came up on eBay. They're not a huge amount of money, but obviously you're reliant on the second-hand market. They're not always available, but when they do come up, they're usually not particularly expensive. The other alternative is to use a plugin called Fresh Air. This is by Slate Digital and it's part of the All Access Pass, and the plugin is literally modelled off those Dolby units and it sounds incredible. It can get you so close to those original units in terms of the sound. There's probably some other plugins out there as well that I'm not aware of, but I have got experience with the Fresh Air plugin from Slate and it's absolutely brilliant. So that is my go-to lead vocal chain for male vocals, particularly for rock and country. If that's not working, then I do have a bunch of other microphones that I'll use. So I have the Warm Audio 251 that's absolutely incredible. If a male vocal needs a bit more air on top and something that's a little bit softer in the mids, then that is a great option. I also have an AKG 414 and a U87, which, in my opinion, those two mics, the 414 and the 87, are my second favourite microphones in the world. The reason that I say that is because I find that they are never really the best option for anything, but they always just work. So if you find yourself kind of in a pickle, you're looking for a microphone to do a job, then the 414 and the 87 will always do very, very good results. Might not always be the absolute best microphone, but they're probably the second best. If you're interested in learning more about what I actually do with these vocals in a full mix session, and also talking you through how I arrange all the different layers of backing vocals, harmonies, and then go through each one step by step in a mix, showing you all of the processing moves that I'm doing to get to that final sound, go to pages.adam-fiasco.com/deep dive vocals. The video is really, really in depth and it goes through all of that stuff from start to finish. The link is in the description below. See you soon.